Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reviews in a Rabbit Onesie, the show in which I, Dan Leith, review things in a rabbit onesie. Ho, 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 it's magic, you know. Never believe it's not so. That's right, it's magic. That's because this week we're looking at two films about swords and sorceries, both where the protagonists are illegitimate children and they have some sort of boomerang weaponry. It's Sword and Sorceries, Bastards and Boomerangs. Which brings us to movie number one, 1982's The Beastmaster. So this movie was directed by Don Carscarelli of Phantasm movie fame. He's a good lad. And it was produced by the Leisure Investment Company. Movies are leisure activities. So this movie's pretty insane from the get-go. Rip Torn, who has a cool name, and you might recognise from Men in Black or Dodgeball. He appears, he's the bad guy. He loves a child sacrifice. They've given him this prosthetic nose. He disconcertingly kind of looks like David Walliams. Anyway, he's with a bunch of witches who have hot bodies but ugly faces. They give him some sort of Macbeth-style prophecy. This guy's unborn child's gonna kill him, so he sends one of the hot, ugly witches to deal with that shit.
It must be cut from its mother.
She restrains the couple using UV paint. And she magics their unborn child into a cow. I have definitely never seen that before in a film. Points for originality. Then the witch takes the baby out of the cow. She's gonna stab it. Some fella walks along and puts an end to that witch and saves the baby. Years pass. The baby is now a boy. His name is Dar. He's been raised by the nice fella that saved him. They're doing a bit of target practice, throwing bladed boomerangs at this guy's head. Just for shits and giggles. Then a bear comes out of nowhere. It looks like it's been eating strawberry jam. But actually I think it was that fella they were bullying. Dar uses some sort of telekinesis to communicate with the bear. And the bear fucks off. Dar's foster dad's like, don't tell anyone about this. People might think you're weird. More years pass. Dar is now a young man who's ripped to fuck and likes to wear rather short tunics. Dar has a cool dog and enjoys the simple life of farming until a bunch of Slipknot fans come to his village. Start murdering everyone. Pillaging. In all fairness, the villagers seem to hold their own for a while. The scene is actually pretty cool. There's a lot of people being pulled off horses. Dar stabs one of the Slipknot fans with his own arrow, and his dog is just a fucking hero. You're a good boy. A good boy. Anyway, unfortunately, Dar is the sole survivor of this attack. He decides he wants vengeance. So he takes off a lot more of his clothes, sticks on a headband, practices sword play on top of a cliff looking like an insane badass, and he becomes the Beastmaster. Nice. I think this extra trauma makes him realise that he can communicate with animals more. Two thieving ferrets decide to steal some of Dar's stuff. He chases him through the trees, ends up in quicksand. Pesky quicksand. It was everywhere in the 80s. Anyway, the ferrets save him from the quicksand. He saves the ferrets from the quicksand. They become mates. He calls the ferrets Kodo and Podo, not Frodo. Then they start adventuring together.
A little late.
He bumps into a big cat who's being tortured by some soldiers. He seems to quite enjoy watching the big cat eat the soldiers, and then they become mates. So he's just collecting a bunch of animal friends. He's like the bastard love child of Conan and Dr. Dolittle. I mean, this movie has some dubious moments. There's a scene where Dar uses his animal companions to completely just perv on a girl. He discovers a couple of girls bathing topless. One of them is Midge from That 70s Show. So he tells the ferrets to steal her clothes, and then he gets the big cat to pretend to attack her so he can scare it off. And then he just sticks the lips on her. She doesn't seem to be very happy about that. Wait, did he just wink at the big cat? Problematic. But there's the love interest anyway. He decides he's gonna help this new girl that he's perved on rescue her uncle, who's been held by Rip Torn, who still loves to just sacrifice children. It's kind of his thing. There's actually a lot of cool set pieces in this film. There's this tree in the distance that looks really cool. Lantern orbs. Turns out to be populated by some fucking harpy type things. One wraps its wings around this fella and melts him. There's another scene where Dar has to pass through a tunnel full of Cradle of Filth fans. Or something called Death Guards. There's a really cool scene that's like Mission Impossible, but with ferrets. It turns out one of the Cradle of Filth fans really doesn't like ferrets. There's a lot of short tunics. There's some wonderful line delivery. Now we are dead. There's a really cool final showdown when the Slipknot fans come back and decide to fuck shit up some more. Kick-ass explosions. Really cool practical effects. And at the end, one of the ferrets kisses the big cat, which is odd. Also, as the story progresses, you realise there's some, like, incest going on, but no one seems to care. Let them do what they want. The only thing that bothers me about it is that it's a bit of a cliche. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that if you push a witch into a fire, she might explode like a firework. And I also learned that an eagle can support the weight of a child. Just swoops down and fucks off with the wee bastard. Priceless. Anyway, yes, the Beastmaster. Some of it looks quite cheap. Some of it looks classy as fuck. There's a lot going on and I enjoyed most of it. It's a romp. So if you like fantasy and swords and sorceries, then definitely give it a go. 3 out of 5 bastard backstories. Which brings us to movie number 2. 2008's In the Name of the King. A dungeon siege tale. Now, what can I tell you about this movie other than it has the longest title ever and that you probably shouldn't watch it? It's based off a computer game that isn't really known for having a lot of plot. It stars Jason Statham as a character just called Farmer. Jason Statham is Farmer. He's out tending the land. Then Ron Perlman shows up walking a pig. I mean, the cast in this film were actually pretty great. You've got Ray Liotta as an evil magician.
What do you know of a man they call Farmer?
Matthew Lillard as a treasonous gobshite.
I cannot wait any longer!
And Burt Reynolds as the king. Burt fucking Reynolds. So this movie's over 2 hours long, and it took me a while to realise what the fuck was happening. The plot is basically Ray Liotta is an evil magician. He controls an army of orcs, or Krug as they're known in this film, and he's just stirring things up. Just to introduce you to the what the fuck factor of this film. This scene...
You're my family. I'm not going anywhere.
Where they're having dinner.
Well, everyone's got a talent. Just talking seems to be yours.
What is this dialogue?
Give it to him.
Give me the chicken. Har, har, har.
So Statham's hanging out with his family. He doesn't want to fight for the king. He's happy being a farmer. Then the orc/Krug attack. Ron Perlman and Statham's wife get kidnapped. One of the Krug is chasing his son about the place. Then suddenly there's this scene where he's burying something to very dramatic epic music. Hang on a minute. Is he? Oh, it's his son. Shit. Here lies Seth, a terrible child actor, murdered for his crimes against the performing arts. Anyway, I guess that's enough motivation for Statham to go beat up some Krug. Get the elbows out, Jason. I mean, this film is a bit of a mess, a very slow-moving mess. In this fantasy land, it's a free-for-all for accents. Some people are English, some people are American. Where the fuck is Matthew Lillard from? I'll never know. There's a really daft scene that comes out of nowhere. Statham and Perlman and this other guy are trying to cross this gorge. It looks fucking terrible. You can see they're in front of a green screen. Fall from a great height into the gorge. I mean, lads, you probably fell because the rope was made out of bad CGI. I mean, there's some terrible CGI in this movie, but then parts of it look good at times as well. I imagine they had a set for everything, but then Matthew Lillard chewed so much of the scenery that they had to green screen the rest of it.
You've poisoned me! You've killed me! Don't be so melodramatic.
Anyway, this quest continues. There's tree ninjas and certain Krug burrow underground. I imagine they're taking some of these things from the computer game, which I've never played. I mean, there are some really cool battle scenes. Jason Statham elbowing Krugs. There's a bit where he runs over the back of them. Statham is unstoppable, somersaulting through the air, elbowing people, sword play, and clinging to the underside of horses. Badass. And there's actually some decent sword fighting from Matthew Lillard and some of the supporting cast too. Imagine working and training really hard on stunts for this movie. I mean, mostly it's just quite boring. It's pretty cliched. We reach a point in the plot where Farmer finds out he's the illegitimate son of the king, and everyone's like, King Farmer! Who'd elect an uneducated, limb-flailing simpleton into power?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question.
Oh yeah. Essentially, this movie is mostly bullshit. It's the longest 2 hours, 7 minutes you may ever have to sit through. There's a telekinetic CGI sword fight, but mostly the good parts are Jason Statham doing some action stuff, and there's better movies you can see that in. It's very like Lord of the Rings, except it wastes less of your time. But it's not time well spent. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that you can't hang Jason Statham.
I can read most men like reading scrolls of flesh.
And I learned that sometimes the gods know what is best for us. Some filmmakers, on the other hand, do not. And then the final line of this movie is Jason Statham telling his wife, "Oh, I've been meaning to tell you, I love you." How have you never told your wife and mother of your child that you love her? How does what? I've also subsequently discovered that this movie has 2 sequels. Fuck my life. 1 out of 5 bastard backstories. Just don't fucking watch it. Thank you for watching Reviews in a Rabbit Onesie. I've been Dan Leith. If you like this video, then please like, share, subscribe. And if you want me to review anything else, please leave a comment underneath. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay sane, and keep the magic alive.
Finn.